All right, what we're going to talk about now is going from your standing neutral ride position to when you need to sit down entering a corner. What you want to do is you want to stay in your standing position just about until you're going to make your turn and get on the acceleration again. It sounds kind of complicated, but you really want to make it in one motion. This is going to make you really smooth and really fluid. So when you're coming in the corner, you're in your standing position. Right when you're going to make your corner, you go for the sit down, you go for your leg out, turn, and then you hit the throttle again. It's really important to have your leg up, because if you get your leg hanging behind the bike, it's going to want to take you off like that. If you have to dab, okay, you have to dab. But if you're in the right position, you should be able to hit the berm with your leg up, and that's the correct way to do it. A common mistake that a lot of beginners to medium speed riders do, they don't really use their knees enough. Your knees are a really important aspect of riding for the fact of you need to squeeze the bike. For instance, if you're making a left-hand corner and you have your left leg out, you need to be pulling hard with your right leg to hold you on the bike. If you don't apply any pressure to the tank and there's some bumps, the bike really gets out of shape, and then it's really, really hard to hold on. If you get in the corner and for some reason it's really bumpy and your knees start to go away from the correct position of squeezing the tank, I think it's really important to pull on the bars a little bit and use your abs, because if your knees can't grab, your abs will hold you there. All right, listen, cornering, neutral ride position, sit down, put your leg out, hit the gas. One fluid motion. And don't forget, if the corner is bumpy, use your knees and use your abs to hold you on the bike. And oh yeah, don't be this guy. All right, now I'm going to give you a few tips to not be a goon at the local track. You always have to have etiquette, and you know, I know a lot of guys probably say there's no etiquette in motocross, it's every man for himself, but that's not true. You have to have respect for your other riders, your other competitors. And one of the things I think is very important, because where we ride, there's a lot of public riding areas, public racetracks. You can go and ride, and there's all types of level of riders. So I think it's important when you get on the track to know that there's faster riders out there. Oftentimes you're going to see a slower rider on the exit of the track start from the left side and cut all the way across the track and go off the track. That's one of the things you don't want to do. I mean, that could really hurt someone. That can take out a faster rider, and he can hit you and crash, and everyone, that's bad for everybody. So you don't want to do that. You just want to be aware of what's going on around you, and if you are going to be pulling off the track, you want to stay to the side before you get there. Another common mistake is going over jumps and really roosting the backside and getting another rider dirty or muddy, or I mean, that's just so uncool. You don't want to do that. And the worst kind of guy is a guy who sees someone behind him that's faster or someone they admire and looks back and then moves out of the way and takes you out. I don't know how many times I've been taken out by that guy, and I just don't want you to be that guy. On straightaways that are really rough and bumpy, you'll be in your neutral ride position, but you'll be really squeezing the seat or the tank or whatever you need here, because that's going to hold you on the bike. A lot of guys don't really do that, and I think it's really, really important. It keeps the stability of the bike and keeps you from getting out of control. Also, with sweeping corners, you're going to be standing up, you're going to be weighted on your right leg if you're making a right, or your left if you're making a left sweeper. But at the same time, you can be squeezing with your outside leg, just pushing against the bike. And what that does is it just holds you stable against the bike. You don't want to be flopping all around. And some of these tracks, some racetracks or some practice tracks have really big bumps, and your knees are a very important part of that.
All right, you guys remember what you're supposed to do with sweepers? Weight the inside peg, hold on with the outside knee. You should have it. If you don't got it, go practice. Go, now, see ya.
Okay, now we're gonna talk about ruts. It's very important to have a good approach to the rut. Make sure your line is correct on the way into the corner, because sometimes if you come in too far inside with too much speed, you're going to blow the corner, and you definitely don't want that to happen. Make sure you keep your front and rear wheel in the rut. You don't want to turn out too early, because you'll get a rear wheel slide, or it could cause you to high side. When both wheels get in the rut, that's when you can put your eyes forward, start to think about the end of the rut. Make sure you keep your foot up, because the bike will be sitting lower. You don't want to get dragged off the bike or have your leg dragged back. Once you hit the apex of the corner is when you should be really smooth on the throttle. And your exit speed is everything. So once you're comfortable in the rut and you get to the apex, it should be all on the throttle from here on out. All right, another important part of riding is foot position. A lot of riders, pro riders too, find themselves getting caught riding in their arches only. And I've found over the years, for me, one of the important things is, say you're making a right-hand corner and there's some big bumps and maybe a deep rut. If you have your right foot hanging down from your arch, there's a chance that that thing's going to get caught on a bump, or it's going to rip your foot off the foot peg. So I've found that if you just slide your foot back and you ride on the balls of your feet for situations like that, it's really, really good. It lessens the chances of injury, and you're not going to, rip your foot off and get squirrely. Another thing is, on a rough straightaway, if you are in your arches and you start to get out of shape, you really don't have any movement in your ankles. And another thing that I've found over the years that works well for me is, if I just slide back and ride on the balls of my feet, I get a lot more movement in my ankles. I get about 2 or 3 more inches. And this allows me to where if I get out of shape, I can kind of move around and save it. And I find a lot of my friends and a lot of guys that I know come off the track and their boots have a foot peg worn in the bottom of them. And I really think that you need to be moving your feet around, because it helps. You don't want to be stuck in one position. And I think that's important. You need to keep your feet moving.
All right, feet position. Don't forget to move your feet. You can try